The tax freeze plan included in this year's budget gives local governments an extra incentive for finding ways to share services. But a new report from the Empire Center says that kind of cooperation can be its own reward when it's done right. The center looked at current agreements in place around the state and found that municipalities are indeed already working together on things ranging from public safety to record keeping. And while most of those deals do save taxpayers some money, there is a lot more potential when it comes to sharing administrative services. With me now to talk more about municipal cooperation is the Empire Center's Tim Hoefer. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So first of all, let's just put it out there. This is not a popular idea. Municipalities don't love the idea of sharing.
I think sharing is often grouped in with mergers and consolidations and dissolutions, which they like much less because you lose autonomy. There are some natural and easy ways to share services, I think, which a lot of municipalities already do. You look at police forces that share 911 services and salt storage facilities and all kinds of things that are pretty simple and big cost savers, and they happen a lot around the state. There are other pieces of shared services, some that are less well tapped, that would bring in some money, that they're a little more reticent to try.
So do you really believe, though, when the governor, and we'll get into whether or not it's an actual incentive and how good of an offer it is, but when the governor is making this incentivization offer, do you believe that there's really a lot out there, a lot of potential out there that is untapped?
I think there's a ton of potential out there that's untapped. You know, governments provide a lot of different services, and there are some best practices they've been doing. I mean, again, there's a lot that they're already doing, but there's a lot more. I think you can look at, we point to a study that talks about the fact that there's a lot that can still be done in back-end services, payroll, administration, human resources, where you've got multiple employees from sometimes small and sometimes large municipalities doing the same job when they could do it once. One person could do the job for multiple places and save a lot of money.
Right, but that's the key. I mean, you're talking about people losing their jobs as a result, right? It's one thing to say, let's all store our salt in the same place, because that makes sense. And we'll put it in this sort of central regional shed, and then we'll all go to it, and we'll only have one, and we'll have to maintain one, et cetera. But it's another thing to say, I've got 10 back office employees, and you've got 10, and this other town over here has 10. We could do this all with 5.
Sure, and that's not an easy decision, but it's also not an easy decision to keep raising property taxes.
Yep.
There are people who are losing their houses because they can't afford to live where they're living. They can't afford to pay their tax bills. So they're not easy decisions, but they're decisions that absolutely have to be made. And you know, the point behind this whole project, this is one of currently 5, which may be 10 or 12 papers we're doing that provide options that local municipalities can take to start saving some money or preserving some of the services they provide, which is important to taxpayers. But there's a whole host of things they can be doing, which we like to point out because localities are not getting the relief they need from the state government.
Right.
And that's when we talk about things like mandate relief, looking at making changes to the pension systems and retiree health care and all these things, all the costs they can't control. These papers highlight some of the costs they can control.
Yeah, and you have some sort of examples of some municipalities that are already doing this, and so it's not, you know, pie in the sky or too far for you to achieve as, you know, a municipality, even if you're a small municipality.
Right.
There are examples in here of municipalities that are doing it and really saving some significant savings. So the governor's tax freeze plan, which, as we learned yesterday, NYSET is actually challenging now in a lawsuit, so we don't even know if in fact it's going to go through. We don't know what the result of that will be. But is that sufficient? Because the governor has been into the government consolidation thing for like years, right? Dating back to when he was Attorney General, he went around the state, he talked about too many governments, he had a whole slideshow, PowerPoint, and he had legislation passed by the Assembly and the Senate, signed into law subsequently, I believe by Patterson, and nobody does it. I mean, there's very few municipalities that have actually consolidated. That's what we're talking about here.
And this goes back to our initial points, which was that it's hard to convince a government to give up its autonomy and tend to dissolve itself. And there are a lot of people who would argue that government is better at the most local level. It's more responsive. It deals better with its constituents' needs. So I don't know. You know, I think that's a tool. Consolidation is a tool. Mergers are a tool. Sharing services is a tool, right? So the local governments need to look at all of these things that are available, not just one of them. There isn't one that's going to solve every problem. And even probably combined, these things aren't all going to make things perfect. that relief has to come from other places. That has to come from the state. That has to come with mandate relief.
Right.
But these are ways to sort of bridge the gap while we're waiting.
So what the governor has offered through this budget, you have sort of a lukewarm response to, if I'm not mistaken.
So they provide what they call an incentive, and it's, you get and next year if you come to terms on some merger or dissolution or sharing services, you'll get a rebate of part of your property tax increase.
So you get your own money back.
So they'll take your money and then they'll give it back to you later. So I don't know if that's as impactful as, say, the property tax cap is when it comes to sort of highlighting these issues and pointing them out and really forcing the hand of governments to be responsible and make sure that we're really looking at what we're spending. This is sort of, well, we'll take it and we'll give it back to you, and it's only once. This isn't every year. It's not going to happen year after year. You get it back once.
And also, do we know yet the specifics for how far back they're going to look? Are they going to give municipalities good credit for doing something 5 years ago?
They've certainly talked about that. I don't know if it's been decided for sure, but even if they do, again, this is a one-time thing. It's great. So you'll get $70 back once.
Okay. Well, money's money. Let's not sneeze at that. I do want to talk about something that I think is really interesting in this paper, which is to say that you say that this is a good thing, right? Shared service is good. You should be doing more of it, can do more in the administrative area. But also there are pitfalls that you need to watch out for. And that's an honest assessment of these things, because sometimes, it doesn't always work for everybody.
Right. And it's worth mentioning that as we started to research this, we were pleasantly surprised by how much sharing services is already done. It was more than I thought, and we sort of highlight those a little bit in the paper. But yeah, there are pitfalls. There are, I think as with anything, if you don't do your homework and don't look all the way through an issue and look at all sides of it, it could cost you money. I don't think there are a lot of cases where it does. We highlight a couple where some people have taken missteps. But in largely, if you're looking at all of this and you're taking all account into things, then you can save money. This is a way that you can look at different things and save yourself some money.
Talk to me about BOCES, because this was a law that was passed in 1948. So this idea of sharing services is not new. It's not like we're reinventing the wheel here. It's really something that we've been talking about for a long time. Generally speaking, though, BOCES has been successful, but it's hard to quantify exactly how successful it has been in saving districts money.
Right, and sometimes it's about money, and sometimes, again, it's about preserving services and being able to do things you wouldn't otherwise be able to. So yeah, again, this is, for me, this is a little bit of a local control issue, being able to say, well, you have the ability to do this, choose it if you want to, don't choose it if you don't want to.
Right.
But when you've got municipalities that are on the verge of bankruptcy or going insolvent, I want to be able to say, and if I'm a government leader, I'd want to be able to say, well, I've given you all of the tools that I can. You have everything at your disposal. So these are some of those, and they need more.
Also, since you're here, the last time you were here, we were celebrating your victory, or you were celebrating the victory, and I was providing you with an opportunity to do so with the Court of Appeals when it came to accessing pension data.
Sure.
And where are you with that now? Because there has not been an appeal, is my understanding, right? There's no appeal possible at the highest level.
Right. So it's done at this level. So
you'd have to go to the Supreme Court.
Right.
They're not going there.
It doesn't seem to be. So we immediately turned around and asked for all of the information from all of the pension systems that had been withholding it based on those decisions. We almost immediately, within a week, got it from the New York State Teachers Retirement System, who provided us the year in question and all of the subsequent years.
Right.
So we're still waiting to get some data. I think we've gotten one of the 5 New York City pension systems data, and we're waiting on the rest of them now.
And just remind us again, what you were looking for was names and also addresses. Is that correct?
We were not looking for addresses. We were looking
addresses.
for names and pension amounts, which we believe, and the court agreed, that we were clearly entitled to. So that's what we're waiting on now from all the pension systems.
And when you get it, you're going to put it on a website.
Absolutely. We'll put it right up on See Through New York, and then everybody can look at it.
I'm sure that everybody is. There are some people in the state who are not so thrilled about that, but and I know this is an argument that people make to me when in emails, et cetera, saying I should disclose my salary, et cetera, when we disclose people's salaries. But the reality is that when you work for the taxpayers, that's the price that you pay.
It's a clear precedent, so we're only following what already exists.
Well, keep up with that if you would. Let us know how it goes.
Absolutely.
And we will talk to you again soon. Thanks,
Thanks.
Tim.